An animated series created in the US to sell toys in the US based on a property created in Japan to sell toys in Japan. No, it's not Transformers, it's not GOBOTS, Voltron, or Robotech. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of Spiral Zone. Spiral Zone is an animated series that ran one season of 65 episodes in daily syndication in the US from September to December of 1987. Like Transformers, it started in Japan. Like GOBOTS, it ended at Tonka. In the far-off distant future, the year 2007, planet Earth is attacked by a devastating unknown new weapon. At the controls is the twisted mind of renegade scientist Dr. James Bent, now codenamed Overlord. Using a stolen prototype shuttle, Overlord was able to evade the combined forces of Earth's military long enough to deploy zone generators. Generators that created a new type of environment called the Spiral Zone due to its distinct coiled shape wrapping around half the planet. The zone manifests as a dark cloud of mist. Troops can't go in, victims can't get out. The Spiral Zone robs the will of all who enter it, feeding off human energy, turning them into mindless slaves with yellow eyes and red patches all over their bodies. It makes victims easy to control so Overlord can use them to create more power amplifiers that will expand the Spiral Zone. And Overlord isn't alone, he's joined by the Black Widows, 4 accomplices working as zone commanders, with physiologies modified to be able to withstand the effects of the zone while still suffering the physical disfigurement. Their codenames: Razorback, Bandit, Duchess Dire, and Reaper. Earth's one hope is Commander Dirk Courage and the elite Zone Riders. Commander Courage is fearless, US Special Forces, Congressional Medal of Honor, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. It's a very unconventional team, which is why they get things done. Outfitted with Earth's only supply of neutron-powered suits that let them enter the Spiral Zone to battle against Overlord's Black Widows, rescue victims, and destroy the zone one generator at a time. And they'll never surrender. Not so long as there's a free man, woman, or child anywhere in the world. They'll fight, and in the end, they'll win. If Overlord wants a war, he's got it, because Earth's most powerful soldiers are Earth's last chance to fight the Spiral Zone. Thank you to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description below and use code TOYGALAXY for $5 off your order today. Morning is a bad time for making decisions. I just woke up. I'm not even sure this is the real world yet. 5 minutes ago, I could have sworn I was cruising the stars with an alien co-pilot in my trombone-shaped rocket ship, and now I have to pick out what I'm eating for breakfast? Magic Spoon can help save the day by taking that decision off your plate with a breakfast that's easy to prepare and good for you. And it's not just cereal. Magic Spoon treats are available in marshmallow, chocolatey peanut butter, double chocolate, and blueberry muffin. They have 11 to 12 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 1 to 2 grams of net carbs. And all new Magic Spoon protein granola with 13 grams of protein, 0 added sugar, available in flavors like honey almond, blueberry, and my favorite, peanut butter. All Magic Spoon products are backed with a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you don't like them for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Magic Spoon also ships to Canada and the UK. You can also find Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen to try Magic Spoon treats or granola today and use code TOYGALAXY for $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/TOYGALAXY to save $5 off your order today, and thanks again to Magic Spoon. In 1979, the release of the animated series Mobile Suit Gundam in Japan cemented a mainstream shift away from brightly colored superhero robot cartoons and toys to real robot cartoons and toys. That is, robot and ship designs, characters, relationships, and space war itself depicted in a more mature, more realistic manner. Mobile Suit Gundam, as an animated series, underperformed both television producer Nippon Sunrise and toy producer Clover's expectations. Bandai, on the other hand, found success with model kits based on the series' robot designs. Model kits were much cheaper to produce and had a much lower retail price than the toys Clover produced. A burgeoning young adult hobby market, fueled by the success of Space Battleship Yamato just a few years earlier, was hungry for more grounded, realistic science fiction war machines. That demand exploded in 1981 and 1982 when the 43 episodes of Gundam were recut into 3 movies released in theaters. It introduced Gundam and the model kits to a much wider audience. Bandai struggled to keep up with a quickly expanding customer base that was suddenly mainstream and crossed demographics. Kunio Okawara was one of the primary mechanical designers on Mobile Suit Gundam. After Mobile Suit Gundam, he continued to create real robot mech designs for other series like Fang of the Sun Dogram in 1981 and Combat Mecha Zabunguru in 1982. But he also continued to design things for the world of Gundam, designs or variations that were intended to exist within the world of Gundam, even if they never appeared in the original television series or movies. It was world building that took place through the model kits themselves and the various hobby publications that the kit builds appeared in, some of it canon, some of it not. It was through magazines like Hobby Japan and Animage that Okawara met Masahiro Oda. Oda was part of a group of professional builders who called themselves Streambase. The April 1981 issue of Animage magazine brought together Okawara, Oda, and representatives from Bandai as part of a roundtable to discuss the model kit craze, but it also cemented relationships for all parties involved. It was Oda, Okawara, and another Gundam designer and artist, Kazuhisa Kondo, that collaborated on the creation of Bandai's Spiral Zone, released in Japan in 1985. One of the first adult collector-focused lines, Spiral Zone was a hybrid of action figure and model kit. They were roughly 6-inch scale figures with 30 points of articulation, including trigger fingers and highly detailed accessories like cloth outfits, helmets with plastic visors, guns, armor, and some assembly required. Armor designs were highly evocative of the aesthetic that Okawara, Kondo, and Oda had popularized through their cartoon, comics, and model kit creations. Instead of waves, Spiral Zone figures were released in acts, each act a figure or accessory set. In total, there were 12 acts, accounting for 3 complete figures with protect suits, 4 additional protect suits, a jetpack, a bazooka pack, a monoseed vehicle, and 2 blank bodies that could be used with any of that stuff. Each act commanded a premium price at the time of roughly $25. The world of Spiral Zone was built through illustrated chapters in a monthly modeling magazine released by Bandai themselves, written by Kazunori Ito, who described the world of Spiral Zone in an interview that we have roughly translated as, quote, "It had to be a combat story, so we decided to make it a battle against the Zone. In terms of the world setting, the Zone is not a specific enemy, but rather an image that is amplified within a particular area." A summary of the first chapter, loosely translated, describes the plot as, in August of 1999, a non-space known as the Zone suddenly appeared and immediately began to expand with incredible force. In the Zone, existing physical laws do not apply at all. The tangible becomes intangible, the crystalline becomes amorphous, and what progresses regresses. The inner universe of each individual erodes reality. In 2002, humanity achieved their first victory against the legions that emerged from the Zone. It's Rin Kazumi and Gig Stratton and Special Force Group Fireball against the forces of the Zone, a battle for the planet and the future of humanity. Those chapters were then collected into a novel called Spiral Zone. A supporting soundtrack was also produced and released, multimedia storytelling but without a cartoon or movie. The final figures arrived in 1987, essentially ending the Japanese chapter of Spiral Zone.
新しいパーティージョイについて教えてください。持ち運びできるんですか？誰で遊ぶんですか？新しいパーティージョイってどんなゲームなんですか？これパーティージョイでしょ？持ち運びできるんですか？黙ってないでバンダイのパーティージョイのこと話してくださいよ。
Back in the US, Tonka was looking for something to replace the GOBOTS, their extensive line of form-changing robots that had been steadily declining in sales since the peak in 1985, and they were once again hoping Japan had the answer. See, licensing pre-existing properties from Japan was a tried-and-true formula going back to Mattel's Shogun Warriors and Migos Micronauts in the 70s. It's faster and cheaper to repackage and rebrand than it is to start from scratch. In 1982, a Japanese company called Popey, a subsidiary of Bandai, created a line of robot toys called Machine Robo. There was no story, no cartoon, no comics, nothing other than the line of budget-friendly robot toys. In 1983, Tonka licensed the Machine Robo toys from Popey, repackaged and rebranded them as GOBOTS for the US market. They were a huge hit, supported by a Hanna-Barbera animated series and a spectrum of licensed merchandise that resulted in hundreds of millions in sales through 1985. But Tonka wasn't the only company that attempted to exploit the same strategy at the same time. In 1984, begun the Robot Wars had. Hasbro partnered with Takara to rebrand and repackage several of their Diaclone and Microman toys as Transformers. World Events Productions brought over multiple robots rebranded as Voltron and released toys through Matchbox. Harmony Gold did the same thing with Robotech in 1985. In every case, the pre-existing Japanese property was key to the development of toys, cartoons, and licensed merchandise in the US. GOBOT's success helped Tonka purchase Kenner in 1987. However, the diversity of competition in the toy aisle resulted in GOBOT's retirement at the same time. Tonka needed a hit to relieve some of their new debt burden and a replacement for the lost GOBOT's revenue. Like the GOBOTS before, Tonka went shopping in Japan and found Spiral Zone. They acquired the license for the characters and designs from Bandai, then figured out how to do something similar, but for a much lower price. Because Bandai was focused on slightly older collectors, while Tonka was focused on slightly younger customers. And while there had been a shift in the maturity level on recent toy-associated cartoons like Hasbro's and Humanoids, Spiral Zone still needed to meet the standards for parents and network censors. Tonka produced a line of roughly 6-inch figures with considerably more articulation than most figures of comparable size, but still less than the Bandai Spiral Zone offerings, which is to say that while the concept and designs were similar to the Japanese toys, Tonka's were completely original parts. That said, Tonka took the same approach as Bandai with respect to cloth outfits and a full complement of armor and weapon accessories, albeit made from more durable materials and without the need to assemble parts.
Earth's most powerful soldiers fight the Spiral Zone.
Gentlemen, in an effort to crush the Zone, Dirk Courage commands the most powerful machines on Earth, the Rimfire Cannon.
Bombs away!
And the Zone Rider Cycles. Only their awesome power can defeat the evil overlord.
4 of the 5 Zone Riders were produced, as well as all 5 of the Black Widows. You could get additional weapon accessory packs, a Zone Rider Cycle, Sledgehammer Tank, the Bullwhip Cannon, and the Rimfire Cannon. Can you believe that? Similar to Hasbro's 12-inch G.I. Joe figures from the 60s and 70s, Tonka imagined kids changing outfits or buying multiple figures to allow for different looks. You can run with the base figures or switch out for a Frogman suit, Jet Pilot, or American Ninja Warrior. To promote the toy line, Tonka partnered with Atlantic Entertainment Group and the Kushner Lock Company to produce a daily syndicated animated series. While there was a precedent in Japan for a toy line finding an audience without the support of a television series, it was practically impossible in the US. In a sea of Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, and more, all with daily cartoons, comic books, and other licensed merchandise, it would have been pointless not to engage at the same level. American kids needed daily reinforcement of the play pattern, otherwise they were helpless to engage with the products. They would forget how to play. Spiral Zone, the animated series, was created by veteran producer Diana Drew Botsford, formerly of Heathcliff, Inspector Gadget, and Mask. Animation was produced by multiple companies, including ACOM and Visual 80. The first episode produced, called Mission into Evil, was written by J. Michael Straczynski, fresh off of Masters of the Universe, She-Ra, and Jason the Wheeled Warriors. However, his vision for Spiral Zone wasn't the same as Tonka's or the producers. He not only left the show, but requested his name be taken off it altogether. The episode is instead credited to Fettis Gray. According to director Pierre Descelles, Straczynski wasn't the only one who clashed with executives over the direction of the series. While he pushed for more outrageous science fiction, he was continually pulled back to a more straightforward production. Whether it was in the interest of appeasing buyers, parents, censors, or all of the above, Descelles and the rest of the production achieved the incredible task of producing 65 episodes in 11 months, an unheard of pace that did result in some inconsistencies and finished animation that didn't meet Descelles' ideal standard for a finished product. Spiral Zone featured an all-star cast of 80s animated fare. Commander Dirk Courage was played by Dan Gilvezan, who you might recognize as Spider-Man from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, or Bumblebee from Transformers. Michael Bell was Hiro Taka, Neil Ross was Tank Schmidt, Bandit, and Overlord, Hal Rail was Max Jones and Raw Meat. Mona Marshall was Katerina Anastasia and Duchess Dyer, and Razorback was played by the legendary Frank Welker, who we've mentioned so many times in so many episodes it's gone beyond running gag, and now it's as if he's a sponsor. He's not, but he can be. Frank, send me a DM. Let's talk. Spiral Zone kicked off in September of 1987. 65 episodes aired through December, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, never finding an audience that connected with it the way they did with shows like G.I. Joe, Transformers, Ghostbusters, or Disney's mega hit, DuckTales. DuckTales. Tonka also partnered with DC Comics for a 4-issue limited series released between February and May of 1987. Written by Michael Fleischer, illustrated by the great Carmine Infantino, it's a very quick summary of the conflict between the Zone Riders and the Black Widows, culminating in a final battle in the last issue. Neither the comics nor the toys lasted very long because the series itself never made it past the first season. The quality of the series is subjective, but regardless, any show had a near insurmountable task just to survive in what was the most saturated syndicated year of US television animation. I got to 31 different syndicated animated series before I lost count. It may be more. Bionic 6, Sky Commanders, Brave Star, The Real Ghostbusters, Starcom, Visionaries, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and every one of those 31 or more series competing not only for blocks of time on television, but space on the toy shelves. And not for nothing, but Spiral Zone was an expensive toy line, far more expensive than G.I. Joe, which appealed to the same customer. And it's possible that Spiral Zone was too similar to Centurions, which had already run its course on television and toy shelves in 1986. A show which featured many of the same voice actors, writers, and visual aesthetics, and ironically, Tonka owned through its purchase of Kenner in 1987, the year before Spiral Zone arrived on television and toy shelves. If you missed Spiral Zone the first time around, you can track down 6 episodes on 3 VHS tapes, or an unofficial DVD collection of the entire series released in 2006 by SpiralZone.com, who were able to work directly with Pierre Descelles, who had the original master tapes. Descelles has said that he attempted to acquire the rights before and after Tonka's acquisition by Hasbro in 1991 to no avail. That doesn't mean that Hasbro has plans for the series or the toys, but it doesn't mean that they don't. In an ironic twist of fate, Spiral Zone went back home in 1990. The animated series was dubbed and aired on Japanese television. All 65 episodes were then released on VHS between 1991 and 1992 in Japan. While it wasn't an accurate representation of the Spiral Zone series as it existed prior to Tonka's license, it is, to date, the only animated version that exists. Spiral Zone didn't leave much of a pop culture footprint. In the US, it is still an obscure animated series and an even more obscure toy line. But it is a snapshot of a world in 1987 that was looking toward a future of uncertainty, where technology allowed those who possess it to distort reality and thereby control the minds of the people exposed to it. And like so many shows of the era, I'd imagine that the best way to save ourselves, our families, our planet, was to overcome our political differences. To recognize that while Earth's most powerful soldiers may be our last chance, their diversity is their best weapon to fight the Spiral Zone. Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. Please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy. Several different tiers to address your specific Secret Galaxy content needs. Check out the Secret Galaxy merch shop at secretgalaxy.shop. All merchandise is physically in stock and ready to ship. Links to all of this in the description down below. And let us know in the comments down below if you've ever heard of Spiral Zone before this video. I didn't know about it until I found one of the figures still sealed in the package at a flea market 7 or 8 years ago. No idea what it was, just assumed it was something that was from the 90s that happened when I wasn't paying attention. Close, off by just a few years. Very likely I would have been a fan if I had known about them in 1987. While I didn't need a show to tell me how to play with cool toys, I appreciated it when they put the work in, so thank you. 40 years too late.